This video is missing the usual intro and outro that I have because I'm currently moving and my set is a complete mess. I will also not have a video out next week, but please stay tuned for the following week where I can do my first video in the new apartment. Thank you. Earthquakes have had a devastating effect on our structures and our lives. They can't be stopped, so it's best to construct buildings out of the best materials in order to keep them mostly standing, right? That's not always the case. Throughout the years, we've been known to cut corners to save some money and time, even if it means losing some lives. Today, we'll take a look at a building that was built out of literal trash. Let's talk about the devastation that was the Weiguan apartment collapse. Northeast of Pingtung City in southern Taiwan, on February 6, 2016, devastation was looming. Taiwan is located on the tectonic belt of volcanoes and earthquakes known as the Ring of Fire. The whole existence of the island was caused by a collision between the northern end of the Luzon Arc and the continental margin of China. But as much as these moving plates in the Earth's crust can create islands, it can devastate them just as much. On the 6th of February, a 6.4 earthquake hit, sending waves northwest from the epicenter to Tainan City. Due to the soft soil, Tainan was affected worse than any surrounding city. A total of 34 buildings were damaged in Taiwan that day, with 23 of them being in Tainan. The quake damaged 314 bridges, rendering 5 of them unusable. 168,000 houses experienced some kind of power outage, and 400,000 were left without water. The city scrambled to get amenities up and working again, but in the midst of this tragedy, one building was the final resting place of many. The Weiguan building was a 17-story residential building in the Yongkang district. According to the owners, the building was in compliance with local regulations at the time of its construction in 1992, but this would be challenged after the earthquake. The U-shaped building was part of 9 connected blocks, and from the beginning there were issues with the construction. Mr. Yang, an engineer who lived across the street from the building, stated that the Weiguan Construction Company ran out of money for the project in the early 1990s, and had buildings erected as just shells for months on end. As a result of these money issues, corners had to be cut to complete the buildings. When the quake hit, the U-shaped building was not stable enough to stay upright, and fell backwards without a fourth connecting wall. When rescue efforts got underway, people were confused and appalled to discover that within the building's pillars there were cooking oil cans. These were used to enlarge the pillars without adding a lot of weight, but the structural integrity was sacrificed here. This was a legal practice in Taiwan before 1999, so the construction company was in the clear for the odd, cheap installation. What they couldn't explain was that within the building, steel rods were found to be locked at a 90-degree angle instead of the preferred 135, which increased the risk of them becoming loose during an earthquake. The building did manage to survive a 6.3 earthquake the September before, but the intensity of that one was only 4, while the February quake was considered a 7. Census records stated that 260 people lived in the building, but at the time of the collapse, more than 300 were inside. After the collapse, hundreds of soldiers were sent to find 120 missing people in the rubble, with the help of high-tech equipment, sniffer dogs, and cranes. Of the 116 fatalities caused by this earthquake, 114 of them were inside the building. The oil cans weren't the only complaints about this building's conception. Usually, the government only issues a permit to construct after the project's blueprints have been submitted and passed 2 inspections, one for safety and one for aesthetics. The project must be thoroughly scrutinized for soundness of its structural mechanics, its weight and distribution and depth, and the thickness of the steel bars, and the quality of the materials used. Once work begins on a site, inspectors must take photos and report each floor and evaluate that they comply with the original plans before work begins on the next floor. At some point in the construction of the Weiguan building, the complex was not built to specifications, using only half the number of steel rods for the east side rebars in the plans. This means that in addition to the property developer, inspectors and regulators are also to blame for okaying the construction. The Weiguan Construction Company is now defunct, and after looking at this case, I can see why. It's frightening how far companies will go to save some time and money. It's unfortunate that the people who have to pay the price usually have no idea that their lives are at risk, and that their walls might be full of oil cans. Thanks for watching. For more true crime and horror, please consider subscribing. Game with me on Twitch. I'm still there this week, even though I won't have a video out the following Monday. Follow me on Twitter. And as always, be well.